Okay, in this lesson, I'm going to talk about some stuff. I'm going to give an overview of what you have to understand about Audacity, and I'm going to break this up into littler videos. Right now, I'm going to give you the overview. So the first concept you need to understand if you are going to use Audacity is that if you're going to record multiple tracks, you record the first track, and then you come back and you have to wear headphones to record the second track because you don't want the sound from the first track to end up on the second track. And that would also be true then of the third and fourth track. You will listen to the tracks 1 and 2 in your headphones while you're recording the third track. And the reason you want to do that is you don't want to double up on sound, and you want to be able to control each instrument's volumes and levels when you start mixing things. Second thing that you need to understand about Audacity: levels should be set to the appropriate volumes. And in the next tutorial after this one, I'm going to show you how to fix that. But if you record it with too low a volume, you can't really move it up without losing a lot of the sound, because if there's no data in the program to work with, you're not going to get a good sound out of it. On the other hand, if you have too much data or too much volume or power in the program, it just blasts it out and it sounds like distortion and chaos and cacophony. And I'm going to show a couple of solutions for that. The third concept that I need you to understand if you're going to use Audacity is that click tracks and program drum beats are essential for beginning musicians. There's nothing worse to me than having somebody with terrible rhythm. It sounds bad. So the easiest way to do that is to use a click track, which is like a metronome sound. Or if you're a really good musician, then you can count to 4 effectively, or 3, depending on what you want to do. Fourth concept. I'm going to explain what an Audacity file is and how to export a WAV file, but also what you want to how you want to save your files, etc. Nothing drives me more crazy than when a kid brings me a flash drive, and on the flash drive, all they have is the Microsoft Movie Maker file, and they don't have the movie exported as like whatever file format, like an MPEG or an AVI. And they go, well, I got my project, and they turn it in. I can do nothing with that because I'll open it up, and Movie Maker doesn't actually save the individual files and clippings into its program. It only references those points on the computer, and then it exports a single file based upon all those different ones. Audacity isn't as bad as that. Like, if you want to bring in your Audacity file and you want questions, I can help you. But the bottom line is, like, you have to, at the end of your project, finish the Audacity file and do something that's called an export. You have to export it as a WAV file, and then that's easy to work with, because then you can burn that to a CD, or you can use it as a sound item, save it to your hard drive, or convert it to an MP3 file, etc. But the Audacity file itself is not the musical file. You cannot play the Audacity file on an MP3 player. You can, on the other hand, play the MP3 file that you exported from Audacity on an MP3 file. And then rule number 5 is you have to tune your instrument. And every time I hear somebody play their instrument and it's out of tune, and what's really bad is I can hear it's out of tune, the world can hear it's out of tune, but they can't hear it's out of tune, and they're just jamming away. What happens is the stomach acid in my stomach starts to gurgle, and then vomit comes up out of my throat and into the back of my mouth, because that's how much I hate untuned instruments. So make sure you tune your instrument. Even if it's not perfect pitch, at least make sure it's relative tuned to each other. So that's the overview. First thing I am going to actually illustrate is this concept. Listen to previous track, and we're going to use a click track. So in Audacity, which I have open, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click Generate Click Track. And I'm going to move the tempo to about 105 beats per minute. You can move this up and down, it'll make it fast. You can actually make the number of measures really long, and you can also make this, like if you want to have 3/4 time, like 1 2 3 1 2 3, it'll put the emphasis on 3 if you change this to 3, but I'm going to keep it in 4/4 because it's nice and safe. And you have different sounds. You can make a noise or a tick. I'm going to make it stay on the ping, and we just click OK. And now you see that there's a click track, and if you want to hear what the click track sounds like, you just hit play. So that's what the click track sounds like. But what I'm actually going to do then is I'm going to record music on my guitar with the click track. But when I record it, you'll see that the sound waves appear, but you're not going to hear the click track. And the reason that's the case is I have headphones on. So I'll hear the click track in my headphones, and I'll play along with it. And then we'll cross-reference the two just to hear what they sound like together. And I will have illustrated the first point. So I was just playing a real basic blues riff. So I'm going to actually play the click track and play the musical piece and see how they line up. It wasn't my best playing, I'll admit that. But let's see what it sounds like. Now you probably noticed that early on I was still trying to find my rhythm. Would I ever use this audio piece as something that I would keep? No, I would probably go back over and over again until I had recorded it perfectly. But I'm not going to bother with that. But actually, if I hit the mute on this track and we listen to it independently, and actually what I'm going to do is I click the selector tool, I'm going to put that right in front of where the sound waves start. I'm going to hit play. So when I muted that, you can see that the click track kind of gives you it gives you a perfect rhythm, but when you listen to the main musical piece, you probably hardly notice the difference. But that click track is very handy. Now if I wanted to add one more track to it, I'm going to plug my headphones back in, and I'm actually going to record just a little bit of a solo of some sort here. Now, not one of my best solos because I'm messing around with a guitar that's a little bit out of tune. But if I pull the headphone plug out, and I'm going to mute that original track, the click track, and let's just listen. Now notice, like, this is just that guitar, the lead guitar. This is just the rhythm guitar, and so I can edit this up and down. I'm also going to go on record too to show that actually, because I'm going to focus in real close, oops, not that close. But when you get to where the waves are touching the top and bottom like those are, that's way too loud. In fact, waves that are about this size and slightly bigger are good. Waves that are this size are better. They're not blasting the levels up and down, but that's a different tutorial altogether. But in either case, you notice I had to have headphones on to mute the previous tracks. Now, if I were to process this thing to its end, and I'm going to focus, come back out, I would actually take out the click track. If I'm done, I don't need the click track in there, because the click track would be kind of a tacky rhythm, I would think. You wouldn't, oh, I can't wait to, I mean, you don't go to a concert to hear the drum player play the click track. You go to the concert to have the drummer play the drums, So that's essentially the first concept, is if you record, you should record with headphones on so that each of the tracks doesn't interfere with one another.